If you're a fan of old retro 2000s anime, I'm pretty sure you've heard of Shaman King. Shaman King is one of the most elite old retro anime, and the reboot just came out this year on Netflix. So surely it's probably going to become popular again eventually. At least I would hope so. All of us 90s kids had one thing in common, and that was getting done with homework earlier so that we could watch the latest episode of Shaman King on Saturday mornings. Ah, the good old days. So without further ado, we'll be diving into a complete breakdown of the anime today, so make sure to stay tuned till the very end. The first Shaman King episode dropped on July 4th, 2001 in Japan. Eventually, 2 years later in 2003, 4Kids Entertainment obtained the official rights to broadcast Shaman King, and on September 6th later that year, it first premiered in North America on the Fox box. Now we all know how bad 4Kids did the One Piece anime, made all of the epic moments of Roronoa Zoro and Monkey D. Luffy fall right into the cringe realm.
Ow! It's flushing me down like a big toilet!
A desert toilet. A lovely way to describe it, Straw Hat. That makes you Desert Doo-Doo.
4Kids is probably the primary reason why One Piece never took off in North America, and you can't even admit to liking the dub version without sounding like a complete nut and cringe enthusiast who enjoys some super dumb kiddie cartoon. But surprisingly, they did a pretty good job with the Shaman King dub.
Meet Tray Racer. Here he comes with your lunch.
Yeah, go ahead and laugh if you want, it's okay.
Some people prefer the English dub version over the original, and if people do that, we all know how good of a dub it must really be. Now, let's get into the history of the show. When the first episode of Shaman King was released, the manga had already covered 134 out of the 300 chapters in the series, which is not even half of the total. Looking back on it, the anime creators probably should have waited for the manga to finish, but they didn't. The manga was written by Hiroyuki Takai and was published in Weekly Shonen Jump magazine. The original run of the manga is from June 30th, 1998 to August 30th, 2004. The manga was a big hit in Japan, and as of 2021, it already has sold over 38 million copies, and the manga managed to get into the top 10 mangas ever created. The problem with this was there wasn't a proper tone set in the manga for the anime to follow. So the anime creators had to create their settings, own technique, and theme of the show, which, well, they weren't really able to do quite well. When the anime ended, the manga was only on the Orison arc, which is halfway through the story. So it's just natural that the anime had a few fillers. Yes, I know what you're thinking, all about the Full Metal Alchemist fillers in your head, and truth be told, it's a similar situation. It's just we got a reboot of FMA with Brotherhood, and we had to sit through 20 years of anime just to get the Shaman King reboot. Let's get into the plot of the anime. Basically, Shaman King is about a showdown which is about to commence in Tokyo. The Shaman King fight, a tournament conducted every 500 years, in which shamans, those who can summon spirits, compete in a battle of combat and otherworldly skills. The winner of this contest is crowned Shaman King, and they are the only ones who can access the control over the Great Spirit, allowing them to alter the world as they see fit with their tremendous power. The first arc, known as the Coming to Tokyo arc, is about Yo, who came to Funbari Hills to join the Tokyo Shaman fight and discover his own ghost. After enrolling at Funbari Public School, Yo becomes boys with this kid named Manta, who he meets in the Funbari Hill Cemetery. In the cemetery, he battles Ryu, who had beaten up Manta, and with the assistance of Amidamaru, Yo merged with Amidamaru to defeat Ryu. And it was at this point that Yo chose Amidamaru to be his permanent partner. Unfortunately, however, Amidamaru declines, much to Yo's dissatisfaction. Manta eventually pushes Yo along and tells him that partnership with Amidamaru is not a good idea, but Yo saw no evil in him and tries to figure out why he declined. They both notice the ancient and rusted Harasami blade as they arrive at the Funbari local museum, and later that night they discover Masoke sobbing in which he made the sword. He begins by describing the history of his vow and how they both waited 600 years. Yo joins forces with Masoke to create a new sword for Amidamaru in exchange for the pledge of their loyalty, and then shows him the newly created weapon. Amidamaru then decides to team up with Yo, and Yo eventually returns the Harasame to the gallery. Following this, the second arc in the series is Shaman Fights in Tokyo. It spanned episodes 12 to 24 in the anime. It chronicles the narrative of Asakura Yo's ambition to become Shaman King, qualifying for and competing in the first round of the Tokyo Shaman fights. The Patch Tribe, the organizers of the Shaman fights, and Johann Foss VIII, who would go on to become a prominent character later in the series, are introduced in this arc. Also, the relation between Hororo, Tao Ren, and Yo is introduced in this arc. Ren desires to let go of his hate as he becomes friends with Yo and the others, and thus goes to China to fight his father. The third arc in the anime is titled Traveling Through America. It includes episodes 25 to 44. It follows the narrative of Asakura Yo and his pals as they trek throughout America in search of the Patch Village. This arc introduces Lyserg Deedle and Asakura Hao as key characters while presenting Hao and his supporters as the main antagonists. The X-Laws are also introduced near the end of this arc as a gang of anti-heroes that resist Hao. The true motives of Hao are shown, and Yo along with his crew are able to make counterattacks in order to stop Hao from destroying the whole human race. Following this, we get into the Shaman Fights second round story arc. It includes episodes 45 through 64 in the anime. This follows Yo and his friends as they compete in the second round of the Shaman Fights. It's here where we get into the anime's last plot arc. Shokolov McDonald is introduced as one of the final key characters in this arc. The Gandara is also presented as a faction that takes part in the Shaman Fights to fight Asakura Hao while remaining neutral in the larger battle. The anime concluded long before Takai finished the manga, with climactic combat between Yo and Hao that resulted in the latter's death and the termination of the Shaman King tournament. The creators completely took a new concept of the Babylon Gate for the anime's end, resulting in an anime-only ending for the series. What basically happens is the X-Laws were able to take all of Hao's and Yo's crew into the Babylon Gate. Hao and Yo came across each other, where Hao reveals that he's actually way more powerful than anybody ever believed. As the anime approaches the finale, Hao charges his way towards the King of Spirits, annihilating and destroying anyone who dares to come in his way. It eventually leads Yo and Hao to fighting one-on-one, which Hao wins easily. But Yo becomes unconscious due to the wounds he received during the battle, and what we see now is Hao eating up Yo's soul, leading to Hao transcending and evolving into a higher state of being. As the soul of Yo is falling through a never-ending abyss, Amidamaru then calls out for Yo, telling him how important it is for him to return to the land of the living, reminding him of Hao's true motives of bringing peace by taking out all humans because he considers them nothing but a big bag of trash. He has evolved into some sort of evil, bloodthirsty fiend who has no feelings for others and isn't afraid to kill anyone that stands in his way, even Opacho, the one guy who actually gives a crap about this dude. Eventually, Hao takes over the Great Spirit, which is actually the essence of all souls, and has reached the power of a literal god. However, everyone around gives their essence to Yo, and he summons some Shaman King ass version of the Spirit Bomb. With all that essence, Yo becomes a Shaman King. And as they fight, Yo actually manages to land the final blow on Hao, killing him. A very heavy moment for Yo too, because not only is he not the type to kill anyone, but in some twisted way, they're kind of like spiritual brothers. And this wrapped up the anime. Now, let's get into some of the main characters and their powers. First off, we have Asakura Yo, our main character in Shaman King. He is the twin brother of the show's main antagonist, Asakura Hao. Yo marries his longtime fiancée Anna sometime after the competition, and they have a son called Asakura Hana. Yo's first guardian ghost is Amidamaru, a 600-year-old samurai. Amidamaru is a devoted and faithful character who may enter Yo's body via some type of fusion transformative business called Oversoul. Amidamaru is a powerful yet quiet man who is dedicated to Yo. The Gandara figured out that Yo was one of the 5 elemental warriors during the second round of the Shaman fights, and according to Pascal Ayaf, Yo was destined to employ the Spirit of Earth since it had the capacity to produce metal. Yo has only been seen utilizing the Spirit of Earth to construct gravity fields to shield himself and others from potential attacks. Next, we have Hao. Asakura Hao is our main antagonist of the manga. He is the most powerful shaman in the whole anime. As an ancient shamanistic master who has died and reincarnated twice, Hao has a tremendously overwhelming level of Furioku in his current life. The guardian ghost he uses is Ohachio. This was his very first spirit. As an adult, he's able to use his Omnioto magic to turn the pair of Shikigami's Zenki and Gokai into demigod spirits. He then got reincarnated into the Patch Tribe, where he stole the spirit of fire. However, he died again, but reincarnated again, and by that time he had killed many souls to make the Spirit of Fire an absolute beast. After consuming the Great Spirit, Hao achieved omniscience and omnipotence, and he can just absorb all the souls around him just by looking at them. The next main character that we have is Asakura Anna. Anna is the fiance of the main protagonist of the story, Yo. Anna is a realistic person who seems cold and harsh. She's a little aggressive, but very determined to make Yo happy and help save the world. She has, however, demonstrated that she sincerely cares for people who are important to her and is madly in love with Yo. Anna is an Itako, a spirit channeler who can summon spirits from any place, even the underworld, where conventional shamans cannot contact spirits. Yo's grandmother, who was also an Itako, trained her. Anna is able to enter a hypnosis with her 1080 beads and then conjure spirits, utilizing the beads as a gateway to transport them. Lastly, we have Hiroku, who's a cheery and good-natured character, yet he becomes serious in perilous situations. He's extremely talented, being able to cut and create a snowboard out of wood with Ainu symbols on it. Hiroku mostly employs ice in battle to either strike his opponent with missiles or create massive pieces of barriers to protect himself. Hororo is his guardian spirit. Hororo is subsequently revealed to be Hiroku's childhood friend, Kurobe Tomiko. Hiroku utilizes his oversoul to freeze water vapors in the air, and for his first oversoul, he transfers Kuroro into his snowboard, riding it or connecting it to his arm for melee assaults. Later, he would channel Kuroro into an Ikupusu given to him by his sister Parika, becoming a new oversoul. During the second round of the shaman fights, Gandhar finds that Hiroku is one of the 5 elemental warriors and bestows upon him the spirit of rain, which according to Pascal Ave can generate an unlimited quantity of holy water. Now, there are a ton of other main characters. We can't forget about my boy with the pompadour and the gecko. There's also Ren. There's Ren's sister, who was low-key a little bit of a baddie. There's Silva. You can't forget the rings. This man was out here killing it for the past tribe. There's just so many characters in this anime, it's really hard to cover all of them in great detail. However, what I will say is I honestly remember waking up on Saturday mornings so excited to watch the show. Honestly, this was one of the greatest animes of my childhood and really helped to get me into the medium of anime in itself. I really wasn't too familiar with anime at that stage of my life when I was super young. I just knew that it was something cool, it was something that looked different than every other cartoon on TV, and for some reason these stories were making me high-key emotional. Too emotional for a 5-year-old, or however old I was at the time when I was watching the show. Maybe I was like 8, 9, 10, I can't even remember. On top of that, the manga in itself looked really cool, and that got me into drawing and illustrating a lot too. I remember going to the library with my grandmother, going to the anime section, and picking up weekly shonen jumps and reading Shaman King. It looks so sick. I think ultimately, the main issue with the 2001 Shaman King was that key characteristics and personalities were completely changed. Part of this was because the anime finished before the manga, requiring it to construct its own finale. Even with what it did change, the storyline seemed hurried and skipped over some important details. The evil Hao and his followers are prime examples. In comparison to the manga, where they not only appeared in more confrontations, but were also given more profound complexity as personalities, these followers were scarcely featured. Hao's qualities as a character were also diminished, reducing him to a typical shonen villain with few depths. It also made him considerably less appealing and a relatively egomaniacal monster. Similarly, his eventual betrayal by Peyote lacks the elements that made it such a pivotal heel flip in the manga. The Lily Five, a quintet of sisters included in the anime for expressly comedic relief, was another alteration and addition. Their inclusion in the anime was primarily unneeded, and the time spent on them might have been utilized to add manga narrative aspects instead. Add to that the fact that the conclusion it came up with was highly unpopular, and it's no surprise that many people chose to read the manga and forget about the anime. Since the anime didn't follow the manga ending, fans were itching for a reboot, and lucky for them, Netflix made it come true. Now it'll be an interesting contest between the original series versus the Netflix series, but I guess only time will tell. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell notification icon to stay up to date with all my new videos. Until next time, peace.